Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist Integrity doing an agent deck profile. So I'm really excited for you guys because this deck got some insane support out of Ghost from the past too. That just took this deck to a whole new level. It's super fun to be able to play and it's absolutely insane the fields that you can make with this deck. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like in your name description every single video, getting a signed card sent in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron, along with test stands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Majesty Hyperion. This card is a great 3F. I've played it at 1, I've played it at 2, and I find that 3 has worked the best for me. It has a really insane effect that you can special summon this card from your hand or grave by banishing an agent monster from your hand, field, or graveyard. And you can only special summon this card once per turn this way, and any battle damage you take from battles involving your fairy monsters is also inflicted to your opponent, which is really insane that they're going to take all the damage with you, which helps you close out games. And it also has the ability that once per turn, you can banish a fairy monster from your hand or graveyard and then target a card in either player's graveyard and banish it. But if you have the Sanctuary in the Sky on the field or in either graveyard, you can use this effect up to twice per turn, which is a really awesome effect to be able to just get cards out of the graveyard that your opponent might need. We then play a single copy of Master Hyperion. Master Hyperion is just a good one-of that has the ability that you can special summon this card from your hand by banishing one agent monster from your hand, field, or grave, and then once per turn, you can banish a light fairy monster from your graveyard and then target one card on the field and destroy the target. But while you have Sanctuary in the Sky on the field, you can activate this effect twice per turn to give you a double pop, which is really good. We then play 3 of the Searcher, which is 3 copies of the Agent of Mystery Earth. Earth is a really good card because when it's normal summon, you can add an agent monster from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card. But we have Sanctuary in the Sky on the field, it's face up on the field, you can add a Master Hyperion from your deck to your hand instead, which is kind of neat because sometimes you will actually want to go for that copy of Master Hyperion because it'll get you even more plays to go for your copy of Master Flare Hyperion, which is a really powerful card. We then play 3 copies of the new Neptune. Neptune is insanely good for the deck. It helps out so much because it has the ability you can discard this card and then special summon one agent monster from your hand or grave except this card. Or if Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field or in either player's graveyard, you can special summon a Hyperion monster instead. And neither player can tribute a monster summoned with this effect until the end of your opponent's turn. And if this card is banished, you can add a Sanctuary in the Sky from your deck to your hand. And you can only use the effect of this card once per turn. This card is absolutely insane for the deck. It's super helpful and it's just an overall great card. I'm so glad that we finally are getting the rest of the agent monsters that represent the planets because it's just so cool to finally have them all. We then play 3 copies of the Agent of Creation Venus. This card is really good because it gets you Shine Balls at just the cost of 500 life points, which is really good to help us link climb into some really powerful monsters and even go for some really good synchro plays. We then play a single copy of the Agent of Destruction Venus, which we just play a single copy of. It is a tuner monster, so it does come up every so often that you're going to use this card to be able to go into some really powerful plays, but it has the ability to just banish a copy of the Agent of Creation Venus from your graveyard to special summon this card from your hand, and you can pay life points in multiples of 500, and then for each 500 that you paid, you get to target a mystical shine ball that is banished or in the grave and special summon them, and then place them on the bottom of the deck when they leave the field, which helps you recycle your copies of shine ball to go in for so many different plays, which is really nice. We then play 2 copies of the Agent of Entropy, Uranus. This card is really good for the deck because it has the ability, if Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field, you can special summon this card from your hand, and then once per turn, you can send an agent monster from your deck to the graveyard, and then if you do, this card's level becomes the level of that monster that was sent to the grave by this effect, which is a pretty good effect to be able to get any of your agent monsters that you want in the graveyard, while also giving you another extender for the deck to just special summon this card out to the field. I did consider playing just a single copy in the deck, but 2 has worked out so well for me. I ended up just leaving it at 2 because it's also a tuner monster that can help us go in for some really good synchro plays. And then playing 3 copies of Protecting Spirit Logath. Protecting Spirit Logath is a really good extender for the deck because it has the ability, if this card is on the field, or if this card on the field is destroyed by battle by card effect, you can target one monster on the field and it can't be destroyed by battle this turn. And you can always use each of the following effects this card once per turn, that if an effect of a fairy monster you control is activated, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand, and you can target one face-up card that your opponent controls and an attack position monster that you control, banish that opponent's monster, and if you do, change your monster to defense position, which is a really awesome effect. I did consider playing Korribane over this card, Trickstar Korribane, because it's basically a Cyber Dragon, but this card has come in so handy in playtesting, I ended up just playing 3 copies of this. We then play 3 copies of Herald of Orange Light. Herald of Orange Light is a really good hand trap for the deck. It has the ability that when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you send this card and one other fairy monster or hand to the graveyard, negate the activation, and if you destroy it, which is a really, really good effect, especially in this deck, that really benefits off of getting cards like Majesty Hyperion in the graveyard, where you can basically get just basically a discard of Herald of Orange Light, because this card is live in the graveyard and in the hand, which is really awesome. We then play a single copy of Archlord Christia. Archlord Christia is a really good card because if you have exactly 4 fairy monsters in the graveyard, then you can special summon this card from your hand, and if summoned this way, you can target a fairy monster in the graveyard and add that card back to your hand, and neither player can special summon monsters, which is a really good effect to basically just lock down the opponent and throw this card out at the end of your combo to make it so that your opponent can't special summon. We then play 3 copies of Mystical Shine Ball. We play these 3 because we're going to summon them off the copy of Venus. This card is really good in the deck to be able to just special summon off Venus, link climb into some really good cards. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom to round out the monsters. Ash Blossom is just a really good hand trap to stop the opponent from touching the deck. This card is just really, really good, especially comboed with cards like Herald of the Arclight, where you have Ash to stop them from touching deck, and then you have copies of Herald to be able to stop all the other monsters' effects. So, that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we got some really awesome spells out of Ghosts from the Past, but we're going to be starting off with a single copy of Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn is a really good one-of that just helps you get back some of your monsters on your field so you can get some extensions into your plays, which is really, really nice. Play a single copy of Foolish Burial. This is a really good one-of in the deck to be able to send your Majesty Hyperion to the graveyard so you can make it live and get it on your side of the field extremely quickly. Play a single copy of Harpy's Feather Duster just to get rid of all of our opponent's back row so we don't have to deal with any of their back row while we're going in for our plays. 1 copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is a good one-of just to be able to stop hand traps against us, along with the copies of Orange Light. Play a single copy of this Sanctuary in the Sky. You only need a single copy of this card in this deck, but you have to play a single copy of this card so you can get all those bonus effects. It has the ability that before you control or before damage to the controller of a fairy monster from a battle involving that monster becomes 0. So basically you don't take any damage from any battles that you're going to be using with fairy monsters, which is really, really awesome. We then play a single copy of the Chorus in the Sky. The Chorus in the Sky is a good one-of. I don't feel like you need any more than a single copy of this card because it has the ability that you pay 1,000 life points and then you target a fairy monster in the graveyard and add it to your hand. Then if the Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field or in either player's graveyard, you can add one of your Banish the Sanctuary in the Sky or one of your banished cards that mentions it to your hand, which is kind of a neat effect to be able to grab an additional card off this card's effect. We then play 3 copies of the Sacred Waters in the Sky. This card is an insanely powerful searcher for the deck because you can activate the Sanctuary in the Sky directly from the deck or add a monster that mentions the Sanctuary in the Sky from your deck to your hand. Then if the Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field or in the graveyard, you can gain 500 life points for each Hyperion and the agent monster that you control. And if your monster that mentions the Sanctuary in the Sky would be destroyed by battle, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead, which is a really good effect to be able to give you that added protection while also being a searcher. This is one of the best cards we actually got out of Ghosts from the Past. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're just going to be playing 2 in this deck. We're going to be playing a single copy of Divine Punishment. Divine Punishment is just a really good counter trap that has the ability that when a spell, trap, or monster effect is activated, while the Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field, you negate the activation if you do destroy it, which is a really good effect. And then finally, play a single copy of Fallen Sanctuary. Fallen Sanctuary is insanely good because when this card is activated, you can set the Sanctuary in the Sky or one spell or trap that mentions it directly from the deck, and this card's name becomes the Sanctuary in the Sky while in the field or in the grave. And you can banish a fairy monster from your graveyard and then target one effect monster that your opponent controls and negate its effects until the end of the turn. Even this card leaves the field, and you can only activate this effect of Fallen Sanctuary once per turn, and you can only activate 1 Fallen Sanctuary per turn. This card is a really good one of in the deck and helps out a lot because it gives you that additional name of the Sanctuary in the Sky without being a brick, and also giving you a search, which is really, really nice. But you want to play the single copy of Sanctuary in the Sky because this card can set it, which does come up every so often. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a single copy of Master Flare Hyperion. I play just a single copy of this card because you really only need a single copy with all of the other level 10 synchro monsters that we're playing in the deck. But it has the ability, it's basically generic. It just takes a tuner and a non-tuner fairy monster to summon this card, which is pretty much the entire deck. And it has the ability, you can send the agent monster or one monster that mentions the Sanctuary in the Sky from your hand deck or extra deck to the grave. Until the end phase, this card's name becomes that monster's original name, and you replace this card's effect with that monster's original effect. And when your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can banish a fairy monster from your hand or grave and then target one card on the field and you get to banish it, which is really good. The only downside of this card is it does target, which is not that big of a deal, but it's also banishing the card, which is extremely powerful. We then play a single copy of the Sword Soul Supreme Sovereign. This card is insanely good in the deck, especially combo with your Majesty Hyperion, because it has the ability for each banished card, this card gains 100 attack, and monsters your opponent control lose 100 attack and defense. And if this card would be destroyed by battle or by card, destroyed by card effect, then you can banish one card from your graveyard instead. And if a card is banished except during the damage step, then you can banish a card from both your opponent's field and graveyard, which is absolutely insane combo with Majesty Hyperion, because this card basically turns into a banish 1 with Hyperion and then banish 2 with this card, so you get a banish 3 with both of those monsters on the field, which is really awesome. We then play a single copy of Baron de Fleur. Baron de Fleur is just a really good walking negate that can pop cards on the field, and it's a super good level 10 synchro monster. But if you want to play another copy of Master Flare Hyperion for a more budget option, you totally can in this card's place. We then play a single copy of Borreload Savage. Borreload Savage is just really good in the deck. To be able to make this card is super, super easy, especially with your copies of Venus being level 3 and the copies of the Agent of Entropy being a level 5. It's really easy to make this card and just a really awesome boss monster. We then play a single copy of Pluto. Pluto is just a good one of in the deck. It does count as an agent monster always, but it has the ability that once per turn, you can banish a monster from the graveyard and then target an effect monster on the field and change it to face down defense position. And it's a quick effect if the Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field or in the graveyard. And you can banish this card from your graveyard to add a Sanctuary in the Sky from your deck or graveyard to your hand. But this card is really awesome because it's basically a walking Book of Moon, and it's also a tuner synchro monster, so we can actually summon it off of Needle Fiber, which is really nice. We then play a single copy of Formula Synchron. Formula Synchron is a good one of in this deck because you can summon it off your copy of your Needle Fiber, and it lets you draw a card and synchro during the opponent's turn. So if you already used your copy of Majesty Hyperion, you can then make this card and then make a copy of Baron de Fleur, your copy of the Sword Soul Supreme Sovereign, or even a Master Flare on your opponent's turn, which is really, really good. We then play, for the Link monsters, we're going to be playing a single copy of Appaloosa because it's super easy to put a bunch of monsters on the field with different names to get a big Appaloosa with all sorts of different negates. One copy of the Celestial Night Lord Parashaft, which is a good one of in the deck. It has the ability you can discard a card to add one to Sanctuary in the Sky, or one card that lists the Sanctuary in the Sky in its text from your deck to your hand, or if the Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field, you can add a fairy monster instead, which is just such a powerful effect to have a Link 3 that's able to search just about anything in the deck. We then play a single copy of Unicorn to spin stuff, IP Masquerade because you can make it with Shine Balls and then go into Unicorn during the opponent's turn, which is really nice. One copy of Protector of the Agent's Moon. This card is a really good one of. I don't feel like you need any more than a single copy of this card, but it's super easy to make because it just takes 2 fairy monsters, so you can actually make this card with 2 Shine Balls, which is really cool. But it has the ability, if this card is Link summoned, you can send the Sanctuary in the Sky or one card that mentions it from your deck to the graveyard, which sets up all of your cards that have the text that if Sanctuary in the Sky is in the graveyard. But it also has the ability that if Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field or in the graveyard, you can add one the Agent of Mystery Earth from your deck or graveyard to your hand instead, and you contribute a fairy monster and then target a card your opponent controls and destroy destroy it, which is really good because this card literally searches the searcher. We then play a single copy of Needle Fiber because it's a good combo piece for the deck to go in for all sorts of insane plays. One copy of Herald of Mirage Lights. This card is a really good Fairy Link monster that comes in handy every so often in the deck. One copy of Imduk because you can turn your copies of your Shine Balls into effect monsters with this card, which is really helpful. And finally, a single copy of Alamirage because it works really well with your copy of Earth, which is really helpful for the deck. The only card that I did consider putting in here is a single copy of number 38, but I couldn't find room for it. So if you want to drop the copy of Borreload Savage, you totally can to put in a copy of number 38 because you can make it super easy with a copy of Hyperion or both of your Hyperion monsters on the field, which is an option for you guys. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a super insane deck. It's super fun to be able to play. The agents are just so powerful and so old school too, and it's just super fun to be able to play this deck. I really love what they've done with the deck, and it's just such a cool build, especially with playing like 3 copies of the new Majesty Hyperion. I love that card. It comes in so handy. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can come part of notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.